Good morning, and thank you for joining. Today, our topic, we're going to be talking about grief, and grief can be all-consuming. It can take over your entire life, and you don't know really from day to day when it's going to hit. You could be perfectly fine 1 minute, and then the next, it could be like you hit a brick wall. So the reason I'm talking about this today is that I went through immense grief after the death of my 27-year-old son. Um, in our book, From Death to Life, the incredible true story of Anthony Joseph. I share some of the stuff about grief, the stages of grief, how it's different for everybody. What I've really found is through my own experience and the people that I've worked with is it is really unique to the person that is going through it. It doesn't even just have to be death. It can be the loss of a job, the loss of a marriage. Um, all of these things can cause us to experience grief. And grief is a natural emotion. I know often, and for myself included, I wanted to sort of not feel it, right? I was in that denial stage, especially in the beginning. That's one of the stages is denial. But it's a perfectly normal emotion, grief, sadness, anger, happiness. Those are all emotions that we all go through. Um, and so the stages of grief can be a little bit different for everybody. There's 5 stages, and there's no particular order that you go through them. Um, you can be in multiple stages at a time. You can be in one stage today and another stage tomorrow. There's like no method to the madness. Um, in the beginning, I know that I was in the denial stage. Um, it was too much for my psyche to comprehend that my son was no longer with us. It was devastating. It was heart-wrenching. My heart was ripped out of my chest. I couldn't breathe. Um, I spent time really just stuck in the shock of how is this even possible? How is this possible that this child that I gave life to is no longer with us? Um, I was in that stage for a while because I just could not understand. I could not fathom. I had known at that point, I had never known anybody who had lost a child. So that in and of itself, I did not have the support. I didn't have the understanding of other people that could say, I understand. Sometimes that's all we're looking for is someone to say that I understand, to just hold that space for you while you're going through such an immense period. Um, another stage is anger. I went through a lot of anger as well. I was angry at God. I was angry at my son. I was angry at everybody around me who could still um, have a life, have a normal life, right? That affected everything that I did, everywhere I went, everywhere I would see people being happy and life went on, right? And for me, that life didn't go on; it stopped at that point. Bargaining. Bargaining is another big one. Um, I remember, especially the first few weeks, screaming and crying for God to take me. I would have done anything. Still, bargaining is a big piece of the stages of depression. Um, it's sort of protecting you in that space, um, and giving you the time to really process what's going on. There's a lot of pain involved in it. Learning you don't control everything. For me, that was a big one. Depression. Depression can look like you're foggy or confused, stuck, not knowing what's going on, what you're doing, where you're going, forgetting things. At the time of Anthony's death, I had a 9-year-old daughter. that I was responsible for caring for. And Anthony passed right before COVID. So then COVID happened, and I had a 9-year-old daughter then that I was homeschooling and taking care of 24/7. So my life became vastly different, but that was all part of what my plan was and what Anthony's plan was. And then that brings us to acceptance. I don't know fully that I'm in acceptance. I love the way Billy Bob Thornton describes it as I am 50% happy and 50% sad most of the time. It's been 4.5 years now, and there's still days that bring me to my knees. It's hard to fathom that this child that you created that was here for 27 years, or however long your loved one was here, and then they're not here. And it doesn't matter how long you had them. Um, you sort of don't get into that space of appreciating the time you had them until you really fully move into acceptance. A lot of what I share in the book, I'll share with you this morning, is about grief. There's a whole section that I ended up writing. I wrote this book just 4 months after Anthony passed, and this is Anthony Joseph. He's one of my 5 children, my middle son. And he guided me from spirit right away. I've shared that story often on many podcasts, giving people hope that your loved ones don't disappear. They don't abandon you, and they're still here. So I began writing this, and it was very cathartic for me. I found healing through this process. And what I learned through this entire process was that I needed to heal my heart. And as I started to heal my heart, my world began to change. It wasn't just the grief that it caused me to have a broken heart. There were many things in my life that had caused me to close off my heart, create a wall of protection. Not until I was late into my 40s did I fully understand and comprehend what exactly that meant, having a broken heart. Anthony was the epitome of it all because he really broke my heart the day that he left. But that healing that it was necessary for me to go through would bring me backwards into this unlayering of all this pain and suffering that I've had. So I write in the healing grief section, grief is not something you have to get over. I'm slowly learning. Every day is a change. And while meditating this morning, I hear those words echo in my mind again. And it's a sign to begin this chapter on grief. Grief can be all consuming. It changes over time. It can be heavy. It could be overwhelming. It takes a toll on your mental, emotional, and physical states. At one time or another, we all grieve. None of us are immune. None of us are getting out of here alive, right? We all experience the loss of a loved one at some point in our life, whether that's a pet, a relationship, a job, a child, a spouse, a friend, a parent. We are all going to ultimately experience grief and understand the stages of grief. I think what I didn't understand at the time that I wrote this book was that the physical aspect of it for me, I felt like somebody was sitting on my heart, on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I had a hard time getting air in my lungs. There was always this heaviness that I carried. And when I began to connect with Anthony, he shared often with me the importance of the physical vessel that we're in and how it was going to be necessary for me to learn how to navigate the physicality of this loss through my heart. Because it takes a toll on your heart. So the grieving process has many facets to it. Well, everyone is different. I'm learning that for me, grief is a daily process of undoing, as I said earlier. There's no finish line for grief. What I share now most is I believe that grief comes and goes, yet it always remains. It's always here. Um, as I said, I have 4 other children, a husband. We have a very busy family. There's always something going on, so there's always something to participate in. And when you see that you still need to participate in life with your other children, like I knew I had to, but it was very difficult for me. It was learning to understand that it was okay. There were going to be moments that I was going to break down. Even in happy moments and happy times when we're together and we're laughing and we're smiling, there's an underlying sadness that exists. It took me a long time now, 4.5 years, as I've said, to become cognizant enough in this process to learn that healing my heart wasn't a necessary component. It was very necessary for me. Creating that connection with my son in spirit was also very necessary for me. If you've lost a child, you'll understand that, and anyone for that matter. I mean, it doesn't go away. I've just lost my dad within the last 2 months now. My dad was 75 and passed from a long illness. It wasn't easier. I thought it may be easier, but it wasn't easier. It's just something that we all go through. But the healing of my heart has made it a little bit more apt for me not to be in such a deep, dark place of loss and suffering, pain. I understand more about the afterlife. I see it. I understand that it's part of why we've come here and ultimately what we will all return to. I'm going to share a piece with you in the book that I channeled for my son. Often I'm visited by Anthony. Today I'm driving in the car alone and I'm visited again. I see him sit in the passenger seat. I can feel him. I cry. And I hear him. And my heart expands. I have that connection with him. It's never left. As I compose myself, I hear him begin to say, please begin to allow yourself to rest. Take care of everybody. But now is your time. And you must extend that care to yourself. Do not feel bad for saying no, for taking extra time. You need to protect on working. You need to work on protecting your heart. Energy healing is a necessary component to releasing some of the heaviness you're experiencing. Not only is your physical tired, but your spirit is tired. It's now to give up time with others for yourself. Give up guilt. and put you first. Our love never ends. It was funny because even when I didn't know what I needed, Anthony knew what I needed. He sees the bigger picture. He sees the vastness of it all. He can share bits and pieces. He knew that I was feeling guilty. Why wasn't I there? Why didn't I call him? Why didn't I stay with him? Like we had seen him the Friday before he passed. All he had said was that he was tired, he was working a lot. And I felt a lot of guilt because as his mother, how did I not know? Right? You know, it was my job to protect him. So a lot of that heaviness of that guilt laid within me, on my shoulders, in my chest, in my heart. And I could feel it. I just didn't know how to navigate what that was. And through this path of healing now, I found so many different avenues that have been wonderful in helping me explore what it really means to heal a broken heart. Some of those things I often share are energy healing. Energy healing is wonderful for pulling out some of that heaviness that you're experiencing. That heaviness that sits in your heart, that guilt, that pain, that sorrow that's there. Another thing I used was yoga, doing stretches and opening up and expanding, especially the chest area, was very helpful for me to alleviate some of that heaviness that I was feeling, bring it out so that I could feel like my organs could actually breathe again. Um, and what I found was through that physical experience, my heart would heal a little bit more each day. Each day that I would take the time for myself to do energy healing, to do yoga, um, to go for a massage. All of those things were really crucial in my healing to removing some of that physicality of it. And then as time went on and I gained a deeper understanding of what it was, I was able to heal my broken heart. Am I fully healed? No. I don't think I'll ever fully heal from the experience of having a broken heart, but I can feel in my body, in my mind, and in my spirit that my heart has healed tremendously through the work that I do, through the people that I work with, um, through the books that I write, through the podcasts that I shared. A message that really struck me was that I was in this experience to not go through it alone, but to share it with others that would have an understanding that they're not alone. Because I did feel alone. So if you're feeling alone, I ask you to reach out, look for the books, look for the people, look for those bereaved parents groups that will help you in understanding. In the end, it's up to us to be able to navigate what this journey is. We have teachers and tools, but in the end, it's up to you to be able to walk through that darkness of whatever it is, to be able to heal yourself, to be empowered in knowing that you are the driver, you are the author, you are the creator in these experiences that are devastating or painful can also bring beauty on the other side. Because within that, you find the gift that lies within. So I will leave you with that. I look forward to talking to you next week where we will be discussing, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Let me look it up quick. It came to me last night. Next week, we'll be discussing it's all fun and games until someone becomes spiritually awakened. I just thought that was awesome. It's totally like who I am. It's quirky. It's talking about a serious topic, but with a little bit more humor to it, because I know this topic was very heavy this week. So again, I'm honored to be here and share my journey, to share part of who I am with the Healing Heart Initiative. We'll talk more about that. But I wish you a blessed day.